This hole needs to be enlarged. So the hole looks like this initially. And so the kit provides this little template or ring that kind of holds, you drill the holes using this template ring, and then you can keep those in there with a Clecos, and then I used a hole drill to cut this piece out. And so next, what goes in next is this backer plate goes on the back here, and then we've got this detection board or sensor board that gets installed on top. So I'll do that next. This is the fuel selector as it will look when it's finished. Just kind of mocking it up here so that we can see what it looks like. And then, as you can see here, this is the leather dash panel inserted into place. The actual instrument panel on the surface or the top of this is not in place. You can see the fuel selector here. And now you can just see what it looks like. Again, just the many times of installing and uninstalling the panel, but I was anxious to see what it looked like in place. So that's kind of just a temporary view of the instrument panel right there. On the right side there, you see that little bracket, little small square white bracket. That's where the iPad will go. Instead of going with two ephuses, I decided to go with just a single iPad in that location. I just like that because otherwise you're just going to have an iPad somewhere. So why have two ephuses and then an iPad? So I just felt like one ephus is fine. And then I can put my iPad on the right-hand side and use that for flight planning and so forth. So here we are. Now we're back into, these are the wiring schematics and drawings that were provided by Advanced Flight Systems. They've done a great job in detailing where everything goes. I have to say that my communication with those guys has been fantastic. I work with Jonathan and Kyle both. I know Jonathan is probably just totally wiped out and worn out from my emails and questions. I'll send him videos and things about questions I have on the wiring, and sometimes I'm overkill with it. I'm asking a lot of questions that he's answered, and I'm just reconfirming, so he probably gets a little frustrated that he's already answered the question. Here is, this is where the lane light indicators for the Rotax, lane A, lane B, so you've got those lights above each of the lanes, and then there has to be a resistor installed. So work with Jonathan on how to do that. And so those are in place now. These are the fuel pump switches. These are from Aerospace Innovations, the guys up at Midwest. So these fuel pump switches integrate with the existing Rotax fuel pump systems, not boost, but just a pump system with Rotax. And then, so we're combining these switches with the original system. Just kind of showing you how the wires are laid out, and there's quite a bit of wires there. Here we go with the HIC A and HIC B. So this was a new thing for me. When I built the Bearhawk, I was using a Lycoming IO 540, and the amount of electronics and technology on the Lycoming is not as significant or as great as it is with the Rotax. So I've learned about what the HIC A and HIC B are, which was pretty a new world for me. It took me a while to grasp this. I studied the Rotax manual. I studied other builder videos. And so these were things that I had to understand. And this plug actually gets installed through the firewall. And here is a example up there at the top. That's the opening for where those plugs will go in, and then the HIC A and HIC B connectors go underneath the instrument panel, and then there's more wires that come in from the panel into the HIC A and HIC B. So again, it's just completely different way of thinking about wiring that I was compared to from the past. Here are the two inside, these two plugs you see, are round plugs, or sometimes called cannon plugs. They did not come with the kit, although there are two holes in the firewall specifically for these. So I struggled with that, finally found a builder who could get me the part numbers from Mauser Electronics, where I ordered these from. And so I got those installed. And some of those are just miscellaneous wires. The top plug is for the bigger wires, like the X3, X2, X1 going to the ECU. And then the bottom one is pretty much your choice on what you want to push through the firewall. And you'll have to work up, create the pin connections and everything on either side of the firewall to make those connections. So here we go. I've got, as I'm building my airplane, Rotax comes out with 3 service bulletins. One of them, the first one was for the oil spray nozzle. And so I was fortunate enough that I've connected with Sean Tucker in Rock Hill, who came up one day. He actually came up earlier in his airplane to visit his Sling TSi. And I'm going to put a separate video out I actually took a ride with him. Not the day he came and visited, but later on I went down to Rock Hill and he took me for a ride in his Sling TSi, which was actually my first ride. So that was exciting, and it really confirmed that I'm building the right airplane. But anyway, Sean Tucker's here with me. He went down to Lockwood in Florida, where there's a Rotax training center down there, and got the I believe it's called IRMT, the Independent Rotax Maintenance Technician Certification. So with these service bulletins that came out, there's 3 of them. You'll talk about all 3 of them here, but like I said, the first one's the oil spray nozzle. We have to have an IRMT who performs this inspection. It's just not something I can do myself and document it into my logbook. So Sean is here with me. We're going through that, and he had the tools that he brought in to perform this inspection. And we did it 3 times, I believe, and so documented it here with this picture to verify that we are within the parameters on this oil spray nozzle. So apparently what has happened is at the factory, when these engines were built, on the assembly line, there was a issue where too much thread lock was used on the oil spray nozzle. I don't know exactly the components inside here, but it's an internal situation where there's an oil sprayer, and as I understand it, that helps lubricate and cool the generator. And if that orifice is blocked, that's not good, and that generator could fail. So some people failed the inspections. Unfortunately, in this case, we passed. So that was a big sigh of relief when that was finalized. The next one is the case hardness test, and the case hardness test is kind of surprising, actually. You would think that would not be something of concern, but apparently there's been some casting issues on these engines, so we have to test the case as well as the gearbox assembly. And we test that with this tool that you see here in the picture that's able to determine the thickness of the material. So I won't go into a big detailed explanation for that, but this test was also passed. So I don't have to send the engine off for any sort of repairs there. So that's good news. Here we've got, this is the expansion tank assembly inspection. So again, another service bulletin. Fortunately, I've got this bore scope, and Sean again was with me. We use this to look inside of this. It's part of the coolant system. As you may have heard, these Rotaxes are water cooled. So this is used for that, and we were able to determine that the welds inside of that expansion tank were adequate. Whereas in the service bulletin, there were some issues where these were spot welded and that they would leak and not actually cause or not provide cooling, or actually leak the fluid so that you're not cooling the systems. You know what I'm saying? The system just doesn't work when there's fluid leaking. Okay, so now I'm getting to the point where, okay, let's move into something else, and so I'm going to install the boot cowl over the front of the nose of the airplane. There's the ratchet straps there that will hold that in place on both sides, and so there's rivets that go all throughout those areas on the side of the side panels of the airplane, the front on the cowling, as well as on the inside. So there's just a lot of rivets there, and this is one of those steps where you just kind of hold your breath and hope that you didn't miss anything on the inside there, because that's it. Once this thing's on, you're not going to get back inside of here. So I took these pictures, so in the future, if I have to think about something that's going on there, I've got these pictures to help me see what I'm looking at. And hopefully that's just, once it's done, and I have to crawl in on my back to get in there and do any kind of work. So this is just a video here of the super fill that I used to flush out those rivets on the boot cowl along, and as well as that seam through there. So I like the way that's going to look once it's painted, and the finish aspect that goes along with that. So here we go. Now I'm starting my painting again, back into the paint booth. As you've probably heard me say in other videos, this is why it's taken me so long to build this airplane, because there's just so much involved with painting. I think I've got about 5 months of work on just painting this airplane. What you're looking at there in this close-up is I did run into some issues with the clear coat that I'm using. A little bit of what they call solvent pop, and so that's kind of giving me some people will call it orange peel, but it's more than orange peel. I've worked on that a little bit, but this is not going to be a show plane. I'm not going to win any awards. I'm pretty happy with the paint job overall, but you get up close to it, you're going to see stuff like this. Now that I've got the canopy painted and the boot cowl's painted, and I've got the logos in place, the N number, the Sling emblem is on the side now, as well as the experimental placard at the opening of the doors. And of course, I'm still on the rotisserie. But everything looks good. I'm liking the way this came out. So here we are now. I'm installing the undercarriage, and my method for doing this is to put a large piece of wood through the canopy door openings there on each side, and then using straps on both sides to ratchet those into place. And that was fairly simple. I will say that the instructions say to put the I think it was whatever it says, the top bolt in first and then the bottom bolt, whatever it says, do the opposite. You want to ratchet the thing up, put those bolts in, and do the opposite of what it's telling you to do there in the instructions. Another builder, Jacob, told me about that, and he said once you do it the opposite of what the manual says to do, it goes right into place, and he was right. I was ready to install of course, now that you got the undercarriage in place, I'm ready to install the wheels, tires, and inner tubes. But unfortunately, all my inner tubes are dry rotted. So I reached out to the factory. Again, they've been very accommodating, and they've gone ahead and sent me replacement inner tubes for all 3 tires. Don't know why that happened. It's not like just one, but all 3 of them. But while I'm waiting for that, I went ahead and installed the nose gear which is takes a little bit of time, but it's not hard. I mean, it's a nice system there. Uh, I like the fact that it's a coil over spring versus like a gas filled shock or something like that. So it's pretty conventional, but it works well. And then of course, you know, you got the the steering push rods that go into there. That all that connects at the same time. And then of course now back to more wiring. Got a lot of little wiring things to work on. Always doing wiring. So even though you get these panels built for you, it's still really time consuming just making all the connections and confirming and verifying everything. So back to that, there's always something that has to be tinkered with as far as the wiring goes. And this is just a picture or a video here of where I'm putting my GPS antennas. And there's been some controversy. The kit provides you with these brackets that are intended to be mounted on the firewall, as you see here. The only difference is with mine, I've modified them so that they extend out further and get a little bit more further away from the metal on the firewall. I know some people have said don't do this or don't use them as they were intended. I'm doing it differently and I'm modifying those. So we'll see how that works. Upholstery. So now I've done some the panels in, and pretty much I've got all the riv nuts installed to hold that panel in place onto the leather dash there. And I've started installing some carpet in the bottom, as well as some side pieces there with the upholstery. That again is all from Piranha, and I'm just thrilled to death the way those guys have helped me with that upholstery kit, and it's going together pretty well. So still have more upholstery to go, but liking the way it looks so far. All right, so now I have the inner tubes, and that situation's been resolved, and so now I'm able to install the tires and the wheels and all of that. And so pushing it out of the hanger just to get some shots of what it looks like now that it's off the rotisserie and it's on its own legs. So that's kind of a big milestone day. And so next, beginning to work on the brakes. And these are the upgraded Matco double puck brakes. From what I understand, the factory has now gone and instead of the single puck brakes that originally came with the kit, they're providing these double puck brakes as standard with the kit. So that's good news. So you don't have to worry about buying the upgrade like I did. Installing the wheels, there's some plates that go on the undercarriage here. You can see that aluminum L-shaped looking plate, and that is the plate where the wheel pants are supposed to attach. So I put this on, and you can see there's 4 riv nuts on the tops and the side of that L bracket. So I think I'm ready to go. Put my wheel pants on. Unfortunately, I go put the wheel pants on and they don't fit, and I cannot figure out what's going on. So I took a closer look at the drawing, and now you can see that drawing's different, or the way that bracket is made. You see there's 2 tabs at the top there. Whatever bracket they sent to me was not the correct bracket. So again, I reached out to Sling, and they are, as of today, the 15th of June, 2025. I've been told those new or replacement brackets are in transit and have been they're shipped. They're being shipped to me right now. So once I get those, we'll swap those out. That's what the wheel pants look like. I just kind of mocked them up. I don't have that bracket, those 2 brackets I need, but that's kind of, I was just anxious to see what it looks like. And so you can see there, that nose wheel bracket, or that nose wheel wheel pant's kind of a pain. I didn't realize it's how difficult that would be, but it's on. So, but I like the way these look, and so we'll get those permanently installed when I get the brackets. All right, next challenge is the throttle assembly and cable extension bracket. So I initially installed my the throttle cable, as I thought it was to be installed. And as I finish the connection, I see that my lever only moves about 2/3 of the way. And I'm like, what is going on here? That cannot be correct. So turns out that the drawings, there's been a revision made to these brackets. I guess what happened is there is a new throttle cable being used versus an older one, and that requires a new bracket. And you can see where that arrow is pointing there. It extends about 30 millimeters away from where the original bracket was. And you probably don't know what this means unless you're seeing it. But what I did was I actually just, you can kind of see here, I added a 30 millimeter extension to my brackets there, reinstalled the throttle cable, and now I have the movement I need all the way forward on the throttle cable. All right, so that dilemma is resolved. And then next I have the engine installation, which I just did yesterday, actually. So I've got my chain hoist rigged up. I've got my spreader bar. I've detached the engine from the shipping crate, ready to put everything on board. The only thing I had to deal with, there is a rivet in the bottom right corner of that engine mount that has to be removed. There's a captive nut there that you have to take out. It's a little bit of a challenge, but I managed to get that loose. Just dig around in some of the other builder manuals and you'll figure out what to do. Some of the other builder logs, and you'll see that some people talk about this and how to take care of that problem. But once that's taken care of, it only took me a few hours, and then I was able to actually connect the engine to the bracket on the front, and it's only 4 bolts. And now that it's on, you can see how this looks. Again, wheel pants are just on there temporarily, but I have an engine installed, and so now it's just a matter of making all the connections and getting everything routed through the firewall into the engine compartment or into the cockpit. So for the most part, they're making some progress. Again, not going to make Oshkosh like I thought I would, but hopefully by the end of this summer. Everybody asks, when's it going to be done? When's it going to be done? I don't know. When you run into situations where your inner tubes have dry rot, your wheel pants have the wrong brackets, your throttle assembly needs to be modified. I don't know. You can't ever put a time on this stuff, but hopefully we'll be wrapping this up soon and have this bird flying before the end of the summer. All right, thanks again for watching, everybody. I hope this video wasn't too long. I appreciate it if you made it this far.